much for staying with us. It's still AM Live, and of course, we are on to our interview segment where we get to talk about some very important issues of both individual relevance, national, and of course, global relevance. Today, we're going to be looking at the family unit. And of course, we all know that whatever happens in a country should and would directly be traced down to how the family unit is built, conceived, and of course sustained. Today, I'm having a discussion with a man who, for many years, alongside his wife, have committed themselves to being God's instrument for building marriages that honor God, and of course, I will in turn become agents of transformation in the larger community. I have with me on the program today, Pastor Ayo Olaleye. You're welcome on the program.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
Pastor Ayo Olaleye, alongside his wife, Mrs. Titi Olaleye,
Yeah.
right, the coordinator for the Family Resource Ministry, and together they have been stirring God's purpose for a strong family that would honor Him. And today we will be having a talk on how they're doing that. They've been doing that, and of course they have a program they organize every year towards strengthening the family units. We will be looking at that also. But I mean, let me ask you, sir. I mean, you are the coordinator of the Family Resource Ministry.
Yeah.
You've been doing this with your wife for many years. How long have you been doing this?
Well, officially, Family Resource Ministries was registered, incorporated in 2014.
Okay.
But this unofficially started about 10 years ago.
10 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay. You've been married from the you've been married 11 years, right?
Yes.
So it means you got into this ministry just after you
Yes,
got married, and
yes.
you've been doing well
Yes,
in this.
just even before our marriage, we know that this is what God will have us do. So
Very wonderful. Now I'm going to take you back the 10 years you started. I mean, why? What prompted you could have been doing anything
Yes.
other than working together to build a family unit. What prompted your decision to committing yourself to building marriages, families that honor God?
Well, honestly, it's just the way God is working in our hearts. I mean, and we believe that we cannot have anything good in the society if the family is not what it should be. I mean, because a child comes from the family, and that's where the foundation, the background you're bringing starts from. So whatever is going to be in the future, whatever is going to become, start from that place. So family is just everything.
Thank you very much. Your family, your mission, your organization, if I could possibly use that word, your
That's
mission
okay.
statement is to transform lives by harnessing resource to create enrichment opportunities that will equip Christians for a fulfilling family life.
Yes, you're correct.
You talked about how very relevant the family is, but of course the family is not being saved from challenges. I mean, different forces fighting against it, trying to make it less of what God intends of it to be. In all of your years of experience, especially in this ministry, what challenges would you say have faced a family, have threatened to break the family unit? I know there are the financial issues and the rest of them, but in your experiences with people, what would you say have families faced, the challenges facing the family units today?
I think basically it all boils down to expectations. I mean, and I think the problem is that we've been deceived by the Western media, the movies we watch, the books we read, as to what marriage is all about. I mean, they've painted an unrealistic picture of what it should be. And so you see everybody comes into marriage for what he's going to get. Oh, I need somebody who is caring. I want somebody who will take care of me. I want somebody who will take care of my children. And not giving less attention to what marriage will take from you. And so when you get in, basically focusing on what you expect, and most of these expectations are not realistic. And so, based on what we have watched in movies, reading novels, and the likes, we expect something from our partner. And when those expectations are not forthcoming, you get disappointed, you get frustrated. And instead of facing the issue that we start looking, oh, maybe I got married to the wrong person. And you start thinking of maybe your girlfriend or somebody else. Or maybe if it has been this person, it will have been better. And like that. And so when your heart is not there, then the strength to make it work is is missing, and then that's the beginning of the problem.
But is it wrong to go into marriages with expectations? I mean, you talk about the
I
fact
said
that,
unrealistic expectations.
Okay.
That's what I said.
would expecting someone to be caring, to, I mean, do one or two things for you, how do you then define what's realistic? It's not too much to expect that your spouse is caring.
Now, like I said, it's not out of place. But marriage itself is work. I mean, for two people from different world, different upbringing, different background, to want to become one, then it's a lot of work and requires a lot of sacrifice. For me, much more than what you're expecting to receive, if our attention, focus is on what we're to give, then it makes it easier.
Okay, now I get, and I like the balance. I get explanation much more than expecting. I mean, you should think of what you consider what you want to give, not what you want to receive from it. Okay, thank you very much. Now let's talk about the program that you organize every year. I understand you're based in Abuja, and you've had couples dinner events in Belkuta, in Abuja, of course, and of course Ibadan.
Yes.
What's the program all about? What's the event all about? What do people expect from the
event? Generally, we get too busy and we don't have time to pay attention to this important thing. An average African man really wants to take his wife out and things like that. And so, outside the church wall is a Christian program. It's a church program, but outside the church wall, not in a churchy setting. Let's have an atmosphere that will stir up and spur greater commitment and love to your marriage. And you see, when couples comes together, you see, hear, and get charged by each other. I mean, the coming together, it's basically for marriage. And so what we discuss is marriage. And so it's to create an atmosphere that will stir up and enrich marriage better.
Okay. You bring families together.
Yes.
And you say it's an event for marriage, just for married people? Or
yes, just for married people. This program, Couples Dinner, is basically for married people.
Okay, so when you come up with these events, personally, what do you expect that God will do in the lives of the people who come? I mean, what are your expectations? Okay, of course, we talk about expectations.
Yes.
But it's okay to have expectations.
Yes, definitely. It's okay to have expectations. Yes, definitely. Even all of the time.
Each time you organize this, it's been every year, right?
Yes.
For how long first?
Well, Abeokuta started 9 years ago.
So every year since
Yes.
you had it in Abeokuta 9 years ago, you've had it consistently.
Yes.
Now, what exactly do you usually look forward to God doing in the lives of everyone who comes?
One, we expect healings, which come via forgiveness and reconciliation. We expect that wounds and hurts will be healed. And then we expect that love will be renewed, commitment to marriage. Because you see, for us, basically, the key to love is commitment. Love is not a feeling, like we generally believe. Because the kind of love that God wants us to give in marriage, to bring into marriage, is not what you feel, it's what you decide to do. And you know, like 1 Corinthians 13, divine loves. And so, I mean, say love is patient. Patient is not what you feel. It's a decision to say, okay, let me wait more for her. Let me give her more time. So we expect that commitment will be renewed. So people come and go back and live with greater commitment to make their marriage work.
Okay, making the marriage work. So
yes.
What are the things that anyone possibly who might not be able to attend? I'd like you to speak generally to people now.
Okay.
Towards making marriages work. What do people need to understand? Of course, understandably, we've talked about not expecting so much, but being willing to give, being willing to commit to it.
Yes.
But if I want to make my marriage work, I want to make sure it succeeds, it's successful, what would anyone need to do in marriage to getting it right?
Well, I just spoke about commitment.
Yes.
But I was refine it in another way. I'll say that for me, basically, the key to making your marriage work is the God factor. If I will feel that my responsibility in my marriage is towards my wife, it's natural to get discouraged. It's natural to expect give and take. It's natural to have expectations, like I said. But basically, if I have the understanding that this relationship is far beyond me and her, there's a third party, a very important third party, then the kind of commitment and my perspective will change. And how do I mean? For instance, it is God that says I should love my wife. Now, if I'm loving her for what she is, then there can be ups and downs often. But if I'm loving her as more as in obedience to God, as also my show of commitment to God, then it strengthens the relationship better than just natural. So for me, one key factor in making marriage work is the God factor. And I tell people, more of what we call marriage problems are not. I don't believe they are marriage problems. The problems we see as marriage problems are problems in our Christian walk, in our relationship with God that are manifesting in marriage. For instance, if I say my wife offends me and I'm not going to forgive her, it's not a marriage problem. It's first a sin of unforgiveness that is manifesting only in my marriage. If a man is cheating on his wife, it's just beyond them. It's basically first an issue of adultery than a marriage problem. So more of what we see are issues in our walk with God, in our Christian lives, that not find expression in our marriage.
Thank you very much. It means that everyone who goes into marriage doesn't necessarily go into it because of the other person, but because you are seeking to honor God and
Yes.
because you want to continue to honor God
Yes,
in that marriage.
you're right. Very right.
We'll take a break now. When we return, the program will continue. To stay with us.
Follow me, onítèmi, ọ̀rẹ́ mi, olólùfẹ́, ojú kan ṣàlàdání, lọ́lá Olúwa kò sóhun tí ó yà wá. Follow me, onítèmi, ọ̀rẹ́ mi, olólùfẹ́, ojú kan ládàá torí ẹni, lọ́lá Olúwa kò sóhun tí ó yà wá. Mo rohun tó dùn, mo rẹ́ni kejì mi, gírígírí ló ń ṣe mí, got butterflies in my belly. Kórìkòsùn kò jẹ́ kó mú ẹ má bá wí o.
You're welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. The discussion is still on building a family that honors God. And of course, my guest is still Pastor Ayo Olaleye, who, alongside his wife, Sister Titi Olaleye, the coordinator of the Family Resources Ministry that's been committed for over 10 years now. 10 years working together. They've given themselves to building families that will honor God, equipping families to being what God intends for them to be. But of course, we've talked so much about families whose members or marriages whose partners, in which partners are both believers. But of course, there possibly are people who are watching and either a believer who got married to a seeming unbeliever, or either ways, both unbelievers who are facing or have hit a rock in their marriages. I mean, while we address marriages between believers, we could possibly talk about those who think there is no way to go, there is no way out of whatever situation they might be in, which is shaking their marriages. What do you say to people like those?
Well, I really don't believe that there are issues that cannot be resolved.
For those who do not even think God is able to forgive because they have gone through some wrongs in their marriages.
But that thinking is wrong. God will forgive anything. I think their problem is much more of they forgiving themselves than God forgiving them. I mean, God assures us forgiveness with God is sure. If you can just ask Him to do it, He will do that right away. I mean, it doesn't take seconds. Immediately you say it, it's done. He will do that. But so the problem I see in that is they being able to forgive themselves and put the past in the past and move ahead. If anyone is in Christ, whole things have passed. Everything has become new. So it is in them forgiving themselves and looking up unto God for a new life. So there is nothing that cannot be resolved. There is no issues that cannot be resolved. If parties involved are committed to resolving it. And usually it is about ego, it is about self.
We had to take a short break, but then my conversation is still ongoing with Pastor Ayo Olaleye, who, alongside his wife, Mrs. Titi Olaleye, book coordinator of the Family Resources Resource Ministry. Thank you. And of course, they have been committed to helping build a stronger family unit, helping build a family that honors God. Just before we went on that break, we're talking about what hope there is for either a mixture of unbelievers or a believer and unbeliever who are facing so much challenge in their marriage, whose marriage seem to have hit the rock and who think there is no way out for them. What would you say to them? Okay,
like I was saying that for me, the strength and pillar to any marriage is God, the God factor. Because if I feel forgiveness is doing my wife a favor, that may take more struggle than when I see it as a service to God, as God's demand over my life. So if I see it that God wants me to forgive and I want to walk in obedience, then it's easy. It will be easier to just let that express itself in the relationship between my wife. And if that is it, if that's the life I am living, then no matter how often the offense comes, I draw from that strength. And then when offense is forgiven, it have less impact in drawing down the marriage. So for those who are probably you're married to an unbeliever, well, there is hope. One, your first focus is to trust God for the salvation of your partner. And so that must be a prayer you must put to God every now and then. But much more, if it is the wife, I think 1 Peter 3 is very instructive. It says, without word. And through the conduct. So that means God is expecting much more from you. That means there's somebody who must be won by your lifestyle. So you must go the extra mile to really show that you are a Christian, not in mouth, not by attending churches, services or programs, but much more in your conduct.
Thank you. Now you keep talking over and over, you keep mentioning forgiveness. And I wonder why that seems not to be obtained in many families. We look at, just before we resumed from the break, we're talking about why there's been so much increment in the divorce rates in the country. I mean, it seems like we're importing the old Western culture even into our marriages. But why isn't it that we allow forgiveness? I mean, how easy is it to forgive? Is it so hard that we would rather resort to ending the marriages? Even marriages by unbelievers these days are ending in divorce. How do we then explain that? Why do people just find it convenient ending it rather than forgive?
Most times it's more of ego and the flesh. But you see, the unfortunate thing is that the person who refuses to forgive does himself more harm than the person you are holding at heart. Because you see, most times, the offending party does not bear bitterness and heaviness in himself as much as you carry. And so, you just keep hurting yourself, draining yourself emotionally, spiritually, because when you live in unforgiveness, spiritually you are being drained, emotionally you are being drained, because there is bitterness and agitation in you. And so you just discover that you are drained on every side. And so in the first instance, physically speaking, unforgiveness does not pay. I mean, there's no need for it. If you say, okay, this person, has done this, he has done that repeatedly, I think the best bet is, okay, this is this person. And then you relate with him or her based on that, your knowledge of him. For instance, if I borrow you money over and over and you're not repaying, I think I should just know that, when it comes to money, I should only give you what I can dash you. So if I don't have what I can dash you, then I should not go ahead to borrow you. So it's just retuning your mind about that person, knowing how to relate with that person.
Even when retuning your mind to understanding this is how this person is and relating with that person on such note hurts you. I mean, it's enough that I know that you probably don't listen, or you're just something that I do not like. And I've talked to you over and over about it, and each time we talk about it, it leads to some argument, as it were. And okay, I accept this is who you are. The acceptance hurts me. I just have to stay put with that.
Now, but you see, the beauty of what God has done is that I'm not perfect, you are not perfect. When we learn to draw a line between our relationship with God and our partners, then we understand these things. She said it yesterday, she did it this again 2 days ago. How many times have I gone back to God and I said, God, I'm sorry, I won't do it again. I won't do it again. And I've done it over and over again. So if I will expect God to forgive me over and over, then why not? And you see, I tell people that between husband and wife, what should hurt me is what my wife did deliberately to get at me. Any other thing is a mistake.
How do you decide what has been deliberately done to get at you?
Well, that may be difficult. But you see, if I make mistake, if it is, I'm sure you will see that in the response too. You will know that from the response. Because if I make mistake, for instance, over and over, maybe, my wife doesn't like me leaving my shoe in the sitting room. But somehow I keep doing that. You've left your, sorry. And I pick it. And she will refuse to probably clear the table when the food, after eating. Then if I get agitated at that, I should remember that there's an area of my life too that I am struggling with. And so if I am weak, then I should expect her to be weak. And I should treat her weakness the way I expect my weakness to be treated. That's difficult. I mean, these things, I'm sure they are not a conventional thing, but that's the truth of the gospel.
Now, I wish everyone had this understanding. I mean, have this knowledge, just the way you've painted it, just the way you've described it. Because, again, while divorce is one of the things that we're trying to understand, I mean, why it's so much on the increase. Abusive relationships, I mean, the recurrence of abuse in marriages is some other thing we're trying to make excuses for, trying to understand and try to put a stop to. And again, we had this discussion, we had a brief discussion on why it is that we get to have violence recur in marriages.
Well,
how do we?
Honestly speaking, I'm sure I've said this and I've seen people get angry at me. But most of what we call abuses, as far as I'm concerned, most of them are two fighting. Because it only takes a mad person, either woman or man, to just stand up and take a stone or a knife and use it at the other person. There must have been a recurrence of exchange of so many things, words. For instance, if I said to my wife, "You are stupid," and she says to me, "I'm mad," I want to say something more to hurt her. But if I say, "You are stupid," I say, "Oh, I'm sorry," and she walks away, it ends there. But if I say, "You are stupid," and she says, "Oh, you are mad," are you talking to me like that? Yes, you. I will deal with you. You can do nothing. And she stands up at me, I stand up at her. And probably I slap her. She slaps back. In her retaliating, her intention will be to inflict a greater pain than I have done in the first instance. So she wants to do something that will pain me more than she had received from me. And so she steps it up. Maybe give me a more heavier blow. And then I also want to retaliate by doing something much more. And then we keep stepping up until somebody will say, "Okay, let me take a knife," in an attempt to inflict on me a greater pain. But if one of the parties have chosen to walk out, it will end in abuse. So it takes a mad person to just start abusing the other. So as far as I'm concerned, most of what we refer to abuse are to fighting. And you see, some of these things, they are in patterns. You must understand the way it works with your partner, your husband. I must understand the way it works with my wife. So if your husband starts exhibiting some character or some output in an argument, you should be able to understand the trend is going and then pause it. I mean, it's not going to say, even if you are not wrong, if you are right, it's not too much to say, "Okay, I'm sorry," and leave the matter at that moment. And you see, the way God designs us, we are wired differently, and we must understand the design of the different parties involved in a relationship.
Thank you so very much, Pastor Olaleye. I mean, it's beautiful. Now let's come back to the event which is taking place tomorrow.
Okay.
Do you get to invite resource persons to talk?
Yes, we do.
So who are we expecting this year?
Well, usually too, our meetings, it's not the preaching type.
Okay.
It's usually like a discussion type. We want to engage each other. We want to discuss. We want to have people who have gone far. Like tomorrow, we're going to have Mama Ijagbulo as one of the resource person. People who have been in this venture for a long time. Let's share from their struggles. Let's hear from their failures and their success. So it's more of an interactive discussion session.
Thank you so very much. Can we talk about the financing of this ministry? I mean, yes, we shouldn't be lovers of money, but of course, money is one of the key factors that make for the growth of any ministry.
Yes.
I understand people come attend for free, they don't get to pay, but they still get to take away so many things, both physical and of course the blessings in the word.
Yes.
How do you manage to conveniently finance this? How have you conveniently financed this for over 9 years or 8 years?
That's an aspect I really don't usually like to. But the truth is that it's God's work. And we have always depend on God. I mean, sometimes it looks really tough, challenge, but God has always shown up. Yesterday, I was talking with the finance person and said, "Oh, sorry, the Ibadan. As a matter of fact, Abuja is just 3 weeks away. The Ibadan people need so much. Please, can you transfer?" I was asking for 100,000. She said, "Sorry, we have just 3,000 left in the account." And not so. If you look at that, and bear in mind the Abuja 3 weeks away, you will just know that it's. But more also, we have also given ourselves to. I mean, God owns the whole of us. So, as far as I'm concerned, God's work will only suffer or delay when I don't have 1 naira anyway. If I have, God owns the whole of me. So if I have it, God have it. But basically, it's been all God.
Thank you very much. I mean,
Nice
the conversation on building a marriage or a family that honors God is such as will keep on going. It's not just a conversation for a time or a day. And it's been so much a blessing for me personally having this discussion with you. And of course, I appreciate your coming. And of course, we wish you all of the best with Family Resource Ministry and all of the events. And of course, that the Lord will be Lord over your home, because
Amen,
first your
amen,
home
amen.
is an
That's
example
key. I
that many
love
of
that
us
prayer
will be
so
looking
much.
at.
I
Thank
love
you
that.
very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, viewers. I expect, of course, alongside my guest, that you've taken one or two things away as to how you can build a family that honors God. I mean, that's all I expect from you, that we would love Him, and of course, in loving Him, love ourselves, our spouses, our children. It's the much we can take at the moment. We'll take a break. Afterwards, AM Life will continue. Do stay with us.
Follow me, onítèmi, ọ̀rẹ́ mi, olólùfẹ́, ojúkan ṣàlàdání, lọ́lá Olúwa kò sóhun tí ó yà wá. Follow me, onítèmi, ọ̀rẹ́ mi, olólùfẹ́, ojúkan ládàtorí ẹni, lọ́lá Olúwa kò sóhun tí ó yà wá. Mo rohun tó dùn, mo rẹ́ni kejì mi, gírígírí ló ń ṣe mí, got butterflies in my belly. Kò rí kò sùn kò jẹ́ kó mọ̀, ẹ má bá wí o.